Hi, I'm Tim, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on our platforms. Reach out to tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today we have a real treat. Officially, this was the second in the series of Ulysse Nardin Freak watches. The Freak 28,800 vibration per hour, different case size, mechanical refinements, and quite a bit of new features. It was the follow-up to the landmark 2001 Freak, and any authoritative guide to the most important wristwatches of the 21st century must include the Freak for aesthetics, methods of control, engineering innovations, and trends started. I'm not sure any other watch has been more influential. This is the watch of the entire era in which we live. It is the second generation Freak, so it's more reliable and more robust. It's also bigger. In white gold with a few rose gold accents, this Freak 28.8 is 44.5 millimeters in diameter, 12.1 millimeters thick, so it's pretty slim, but 54.5 millimeters from lug to lug, so it's broad across the wrist. It has a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Throw this watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. I could wear it. It is large. You can see it's got quite a wingspan on it, and it's right out to the edges. So I think if you want to be absolutely certain, if you've got a wrist my size, 16 centimeters, go with the original Freak, which was 42.5. This 44.5 is big, and I would wear it because it's thin and it'll slide underneath any kind of sleeve. But if you're worried about lug overlap and you have any doubts, remember, we give you a 7-day no questions asked return policy so you can try it firsthand. Again, 16 centimeter circumference wrist and up. The strap is high-grade, large rectangular scale alligator leather in Ulysse Nardin nautical blue with a monotone stitch. We have a folded edge and then calfskin on the bottom. You can see it's a brand new UN factory strap, and it's matched to a Ulysse Nardin double deployant white gold buckle, which is mostly polished except for some media blasting internally. You can see the use of ceramic spring-loaded pin snaps inside the clasp to ensure the tolerances remain tight and snappy over time. And it is a twin trigger release, so you have to press them both to open it up. This will not pop open inadvertently, so it gives you a measure of security. The case is very familiar to Freak fans. Lugs broken out from the case band, everything in high polish. We have a tapered lug profile with fluting on the edges. As with Ulysse Nardin's celebrated marine chronometers or deck navigation clocks, we have individual numbering on the flank fixed by blued screws. That's how it was done. Remember, the navigation clocks, the marine chronometers, in the 19th and early 20th century built the reputation of Ulysse Nardin. That's why nautical blue and the nautical style often becomes a recurring theme in their watches. Now, one big change between the original Freak and the 28.8 is the method for setting this crownless watch. The original featured a bezel that would just freewheel and allow you to set it. The problem is, sometimes the watch would set itself. So a bezel locking mechanism to prevent that from happening was installed down at the base. When you pull the lock up, now you use the bezel to set the time. And people always ask me when I post these on Instagram, oh, what time is it? Well, it's easy to tell. That's the hour hand, that's the minute hand. You tell me, it's 10:15. It's very simple. And so you have two rose gold hands, hours and minutes, and then you can see metallized numerals sitting on a sapphire ring inside the dial, and then all of that on a bed of satin-finished Ulysse Nardin blue. You can easily set the watch because this is actually what's known as a carousel. A carousel is not a tourbillon, strictly speaking. Well, may as well pull this back up and start again. A carousel is a mechanism similar to a tourbillon in that it rotates, and this is a 1-hour carousel. It's different than a tourbillon in that there are two different drivetrains, one of which moves the assembly, the other operates the escapement. So if I move this whole assembly, I'm not wrenching the escapement in a way that's going to crash the drivetrain because I'm not interrupting the powertrain's flow of energy to the escapement. I'm interrupting the energy flow of the powertrain that moves the assembly. The carousel was invented by Dane Bonabonixon in the 1890s, and it was intended as a more robust version of the tourbillon. So rather than making a circle every 1 to 4 minutes like tourbillon watches do, this makes one circuit of the dial every hour. And you could see It's essentially a baguette movement with every element except the power supply visible on the dial side. And you could see the drivetrain all the way up to the dual Ulysse escapement. And one of the great revolutionary features of the original Freak, which you'll find here as well, is the use of an unlubricated high-efficiency silicon escapement. Those two wheels index a short lever, and each wheel is responsible for indexing the lever in one direction to minimize friction. It's not a true direct impulse escapement, but it's a very efficient one, and its pioneering use of silicon was one of the great mechanical breakthroughs of the 2000s. Now, we go a little bit further here, as we also have a silicon hairspring that reduces the effect of temperature and magnetism on the watch. We also have a recessed bolt aerodynamic balance of UN's own manufacture and a free-sprung architecture, so all the adjustments are done with those variable inertia bolts rather than some sort of mobile stud index, so it's a more robust system. You can also see that the finishing is to a high degree. Beveling and satination on the hands, then we have Côte de Genève across the bridges with beveling on their sides and fired blue screws. You can also see that the dial has outstanding depth right down past that sapphire ring that features the numerals. On the reverse side, you could see some nautical wave motifs, as well as the mainspring that provides not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 days of power reserve. And just as you set the watch using the bezel, you wind the watch using the case back, and you can actually see the coiling of the spring as a sort of informal power reserve indicator. And the watch has one major quirk that's easy to miss when you're looking at it. There's a reason that no Freak prior to 2013 had any water resistance, and I'll show you why. You're going to see it. It's going to jump out at you all of a sudden. You can see that the central pivot of the carousel actually extends above the sapphire. There is a hole in the sapphire that allows it to act as the upper bridge for the carousel, and that little aperture through which the spindle of the carousel is inserted, it cannot repel water, so this is moisture and dust only, and that's why traditionally Freaks have not been water resistant. The idea of having the entire mechanism on the dial side, the elaborate use of silicon, all of this, the lugless setting, or I should say crownless setting and winding system. This was a real breakthrough for the industry, and Ulysse Nardin makes its own silicon. The collaboration with Sigitech, which was evidence here, that collaboration was later made part of UN in 2006 when they bought Sigitech to become probably the smallest company in the industry that can make its own silicon, and it continues to do so to this day. This is a spectacular watch in every regard, and unlike the 21.6 beat rate of the original Freak, this one's 28.8, so potentially more accurate even in the face of concussions, shock, and disruption on the wrist. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.